Good evening once again. It's Monday night. It's 8 o'clock and it's, as usual, the Monday Review Show. Want to let you know that we go out on Facebook every Monday night at this time. We also go out on YouTube, so you can look back to some of the shows if you've missed some previous shows. They're all there for you. If you'd like to make comments, you're more than welcome. Right down on the bottom hand side of your screen, send in your comments, send in your questions, and we'll have them answered for you. Delighted to be joined once again by former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, and former head of the PGMOL, which stands for Professional Games Match Officials Limited, Keith Hackett. Thanks again, Keith, for your time tonight.
Pleasure. Hope you've had a good Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, likewise, and I hope you too, Keith. Thank you very much, and a happy New Year, by the way, out there to everybody, which is only around the corner. It's only 2 days away. This is Monday, and New Year's Day is Wednesday. I see on the news tonight that Hogmanay in Scotland has been cancelled because of some very severe weather, and even in the northwest of England as well. I saw on Nine News just now that the festivities at Blackpool have been cancelled as well. It's a shame, but always safety first. We can always have another celebration, but we can't have another life if somebody loses their life, heaven forbid, and so on. Okay, Keith, big announcement today. Well, it's the first time that I've seen it, that coming up, in fact, I think it's in the two Carabao Cup match semi-finals, which take place 6th and 7th of January, and then the other one is about a month later or so in February. The referees are now going to announce to the public the reason for them giving a goal or not giving a goal, or giving an offside or not giving it, or whatever. I know you've been inundated. I only got my information this afternoon. I know that you've been inundated with people looking for interviews and explanations. So maybe you'd like to explain it to our viewers.
Well, what we saw at the last World Cup, I think the Women's World Cup, was the referee having visited the monitor, coming to the touchline, and instead of doing the signal of a rectangle and then pointing to the penalty mark, they're actually doing that, but at the same time saying penalty kick or offside or red card, violent conduct. Now, I think that's a very small step to open up the communication of the decision-making process. For me, I worry about the potential loss of time that's going to take. I know it can be seconds, but knowing how these things evolve, there could be a lot longer. For me, it's a small step. Why make the announcement now? Why introduce it now? Why call it an experiment? Because it operated well in the World Cup. But for me, I still feel that the authorities, the IFAB and FIFA, are still a mile adrift of what ought to happen. Because if they look at rugby union, and I've said this on many occasions for a few years now, the big screen in the stadiums, the referee and the two assistants coming together, and all three of them looking at the incident on the big screen, everybody in the stadium can see what's going off. And then, of course, the communication of how they get to the decision. So they can hear the VAR, they themselves. Now, there's a big fear factor around that. And I suspect the big fear factor is that when we've actually listened in to Open Mic, which is this Sky program, we sadly have seen communication that is garbled and indisciplined. And therefore, I think that this might just bring about a sharpening up of what is being said between VAR and referee, clarity which is required, which will improve the speed process. For me, that's the way that it should be going. If this is the first step to that, then fine. The other aspect, of course, is we're still waiting for the semi-automated system, and that's still not arrived.
Why do you think? I mean, you obviously don't know because you're not in the inner circle. Why does it take FIFA and the IFAB so long to catch up to other sports who have been doing this successfully? Like you say, rugby, where the referee and the two assistants get together and they look at the big screen. Everybody can see what's going on. Now, having said that, of course, with rugby, they're a different animal altogether because they respect the referee. And there's no crowding around and shouting in his ear and so on, unlike in soccer. And I've maintained for years, the only reason they do it in soccer or football, the correct term, is because they get away with it.
Yeah.
So why do the referees do something about it? But having said all that, and I'm like a broken record now, why does it take them so long to catch up for what is something quite obvious and beneficial to the game and to the fans and the spectators and everybody? Why does it take them so long, Keith?
I can only assume this, that first of all, when we look at FIFA and they're covering the game as a whole around the world, not every country is wealthy, and soccer is not as successful as it could be. And therefore, I think that what they try to do is they're trying to put balance into it. They're trying to say, well, I mean, they're experimenting at this moment fairly successfully with a lower cost VAR system in order that can be brought into some of the smaller countries. And I use that word very reservedly.
Sure.
So I think it's that tends to drag them, the committee rather than the individual. I was hoping that someone like Pierluigi Collina, and sits as the head of referees in FIFA, and you've got people like Arsene Wenger on the technical. I think he's the technical director. I would have expected these guys to be more dynamic in their approach, and to say, right, okay, this is what's required. But hey, some of the changes that they've made have not been very successful, and therefore there may be this insurance policy that says we'll only do it if we're actually forced to do it.
I've been very disappointed with Collina, just not to deviate too much, that he was such an example to all referees of the way he handled matches and his apparent sternness with players and so on. And now I've heard him quite recently, he seemed to have gone very political and very not as forceful as he was in his refereeing. So what is the difference now that he's head of the referees? He should have retained that, and he's become more of a political guru than anything else. Yeah. Instead of sticking to the way he was.
Yeah, I think that there's a bit of a mismatch. I like you think that he was clearly the best referee that we've seen in the game of football. Now, I've no hesitation about that. Yeah. For the very reasons that you mentioned, the reading of the game, the preparation, the communication ability, and of course the application of the law. Yeah. And all of a sudden you get into an armchair and you're sitting around perhaps having a drink and a chat. It becomes all too buddy. And you don't get much done. And I think what they've done is, there's always this thing, isn't there, that when we look at the IFAB, the lawmakers, it's made up of FIFA, the Football League, the FA, sorry, the Premier League. No, let me get this right. It's made up of the FA, the Scottish FA, the Welsh FA, and Northern Ireland. And I just think that it's too insular. I think there are countries like Germany and Spain and Holland that should have a say. Now they will say, well, they say it through FIFA, but whatever they want to implement gets watered down. And when we look at those people that go to those meetings, they're not operating at the coalface, a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're in that retirement mode, more interested in the food and the venue rather than actually physically getting down and saying, how can we improve the game? So I think there are all those issues. The political side of it can be a bit of a nightmare. But, I think it's like, this announcement today, I'm reliably informed that the PGMOL wanted this at the beginning of the season, but the league said no, because it might take time. Well, hold on. I know the league are part of the providers of funds to the PGMOL, and maybe it's why I was not liked so much, because I would say this is what referees are going to do. Because as I used to remind them, it's my head on the line. It's me that's getting hammered in the media, not them hiding behind a closed door. I'm up front, meeting the managers, sitting in stadiums, watching, listening to the fans, and trying to get change that they, as a whole, all those stakeholders, require for the game. And I just think, I think the law at the moment, that referees are getting into trouble because, let's take this weekend, and I'm jumping again. We had we had Ramsdale, the goalkeeper, who is blocked before the ball arrives into the penalty area at a corner kick. Physically, there's contact. And then you see the left-hand shoulder of an arm of the attacker over the arm of Ramsdale, the goalkeeper. So not only has he prevented the goalkeeper from making a genuine attempt to play the ball, he's restricted him by fouling him. So I'm bemused by the fact that you've got a referee and you've got a VAR, and in front of them that happens, and they say that's not an offence. And in Scotland, you've got a referee in a game where there's less of a challenge on the goalkeeper, there's less impact on the goalkeeper, but that referee says that's a foul, I'm disallowing that goal. Now, I know there's a middle course here, but it's on the television in the same country, if you like, okay, Scotland and England, but it's on national television. And they're saying, well, just a minute, who's right here? Well, of course, the Scottish referee is right because he's penalised a foul. Rightly so. But we've got into this malaise, haven't we? We talked about it last week, the grappling, the holding, the physical blocking, and I listened and said, well, the goalkeeper has got to go for the ball. Well, of course he has, but he wants to go in a fair manner. Does he have to break away from somebody that's holding him in order to do his job? I suggest that's rugby, not football.
I am totally flabbergasted and frustrated every time I'll watch, and you'll see the slightest little touch, player goes down, gets a free kick. I mean, my 90-year-old granny, if she was pushed that hard in the street in front of a car, she wouldn't go because she'd be able to. And yet these players are going down. What's even worse, though, Keith, and you can call it what you like, and I've no problem in saying this, it is blatant cheating. Well, what's even worse is that the referees are allowing it to happen by giving free kicks, and yet the grappling, it's like wrestling in the penalty area at the taking of a corner kick, and they just go in and they talk to the players and they stand back, and no sooner are they back, not even, they're at it again. So we talk about this, and again, I'm sounding like a broken record, and I don't want to, but it's so frustrating.
Well, I think that, ultimately at the end of the day, this is where I think you have to have strong leadership and you have to have strong direction. And, I think ultimately I listened to a manager carefully yesterday. I think it might have been the Southampton manager who said at the beginning of the season they'd been told that these would be penalised. This challenge on the goalkeeper would be penalised. And of course, he's questioning why wasn't it penalised? So it was covered. So is it because we're now coming to midpoint of season or whatever, that all of a sudden we've forgotten the law, we've forgotten to apply it? So for me, I think this is a situation that makes refereeing at grassroots level much more difficult than it should be, because when the referee at grassroots level penalises it on his own, he's getting the parents and everybody saying, well, I saw this yesterday, it didn't happen. And we go back to simulation. One of the best players in the Premier League is Kevin De Bruyne. But yesterday, he's running into the penalty area, and it's a clear act of simulation when he goes down. The referees had a really good view of it, and nothing happens. And even the commentator makes reference to the fact that he's dived. And you suddenly go, well, if you allow that to happen, and you're one of the top referees in the country, and you're not going to penalise it, there's 100+ referees at grassroots level who are going to think, well, if he does it, I'm going to do exactly the same and ignore it. Ignoring these situations is not the recipe for improvement in player behaviour. It's actually the opposite.
It has been said in the past that referees who make so-called controversial decisions are scared of the clubs, because the clubs wield far too much power when it comes to the referees, because, as we all know, it's well documented that referees' salaries are paid out of the FA, the Premier League, and the Championship. Therefore, that gives them a say. Now, I've written a paper on this, and I believe there should be an independent refereeing body, totally and absolutely independent from clubs, from everybody, run by referees, for referees, with an independent chair. And then they can make the decisions that need to be made without any outside influence. But unfortunately, Keith, in my opinion, there appears to be far too much influence from managers, from club owners, whom the players are scared of, because if they give a controversial decision, even though it may be correct, they won't get a game next week. Is that happening?
I mean, first of all, if the PGMOL was formed to be independent, it does have a board of directors represented on that by the funding partners.
But are there any referees on that, Keith?
Well, what happens is that, under the Mike Riley regime, he was actually the managing director of the PGMOL. Now, I think that has changed a little bit once Riley went. Howard is head of refereeing, but they have a CEO. So I think the constitution of the board doesn't have a referee on the board.
Then they've got no chance. They have no chance.
So I think, but look, the scenario has to be that you are the expert, Howard Webb. He's the expert. He's got a good track record. He has to be listened to, and he has to put a case across and not capitulate to any of these things. And so, I can only say that when I was there was an independent chairman who had refereed, who was the owner of a football club. There was Richard Scudamore, the CEO of the Premier League, a former referee. There was Andy Williamson, the CEO of the Football League, and the FA person was Brian Barwick, who had been the head of Granada TV. So these people were only, when I sat around the table, were only too willing to listen to what I had to say. And and in fairness, if you prepare well as the boss and you present, as I did, for example, and said, I want communication kits, they approved that. I want goal line technology, they approved that. I want Prozone, which was £100,000 a year. What for? And I gave them justification as to why I wanted it, how it was going to be used. They supported it. And in the same way that, we had get on with the referee, get on with the game, get on with each other. This was because we had a series of mass confrontations on the field of play. And the argument that I put forward and discussed and agreed with and supported by Richard Scudamore was it was damaging to the image of the game. So the first thing that they did was they sat around the table, I wasn't there, and they said, right, we will impose a fine of up to £250,000 for mass confrontation. And then they promoted the idea, and it used to be around the stadium boarding, get on with each other, get on with the referee, get on with the game. It was and clubs had to sign up for that. Owners of clubs, managers of clubs. The reason for that was, and the captains, was the damaging image of the game as a whole. And I find it amazing that they don't see this constant wrestling in the penalty area as being damaging to the image of the game. It's quite enlightening when you see a Champions League game and you look, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's nowhere near as bad as it is in the Premier League or the Football League.
And I find that also that when English referees, and I have to state at this point that we are not condemning referees. And Keith and I are not here to be we're conscious, and my goodness, they just seem to be lacking in that backbone, that guts to make that what may appear to some to be controversial.
Yeah, for sure.
I've lost you on my screen. That the referees need to be totally independent. They are impartial. They are firm and fair, but they're just lacking that backbone to make that controversial decision because of the backlash that they're going to get from fans, from the press, from the players, from the managers.
Yeah. I mean, there is no doubt that we've talked about it endlessly about the grappling inside the penalty area and the need for it to stop. There's no question about that. We seem to have got a break. Well, so we appear to have lost Dr. Errol, which is unfortunate because we were obviously in the middle of a discussion around holding offences in the penalty area, the announcement of VAR decisions, which will come in at the Caribou semi-final. And I think that there is no doubt that when we look at incidents on the field of play over the weekend, there are several that need to be further discussed. I would suggest that one of them was the illegal use of the elbow by a particular player who used the elbow as a weapon. It missed his opponent. but nonetheless, in that situation, when you use your elbow as a weapon, if you don't have to make contact with your opponent to come under the realms of a red card offence. Striking or attempting to strike is still in Law 12, and therefore we have to recognise that in this situation, in my opinion, the referee was wrong not to dismiss. And I found it amazing that VAR, having a better view than the referee, didn't recommend the referee to go to the screen and have another look, because not sending that player off was a big error for me.
Yeah, we're back up again now. I lost. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Keith?
Yes.
You were frozen there for a moment. Okay, yeah. That incident. Just carry on there, Keith. What you were talking about was about the elbow. Yeah.
Yes, it was. I was highlighting the fact that this was a decision over the weekend that really concerned me, because, you know, for the young referees that are in the audience, the one thing to look for is the clenched fist. When the player clenches his fist, it's not there. When he's clenching the fist, he's adding to the power and the danger. And the elbow is probably the hardest part of the body. It's bone, and therefore it can be used as a weapon. And that's exactly what the player was doing. He came back with force, excessive force. He endangered the safety of an opponent. I want you to think about serious foul play, and in this situation, violent conduct, and you can look at the criteria. And in this situation, that player should have had a red card, no question.
And I like you, I had loads of people from former senior referees here in Ireland also saying, no, that's old now. It's not a red card anymore. I said, really? Since when did that not become a red card? The same as foul and abusive language is a red card, which is the reason I pulled out the red card for the England captain in South Africa many years ago. And people said, oh, no, it's not that anymore. You got to get it right, guys. That's the problem. Is they appear to be watering down the whole red card issue.
Anybody can go onto the site and look at the laws of the game, and this is on video, so they can freeze it, and you will see that on Law 12, striking or attempting to strike is an offence.
Yeah. And the same with kicking or attempting to kick.
Exactly.
You don't actually have to get the guy. You just got to attempt to.
No. Well, I mean, that's the same for reckless challenges with excessive force. Some years ago, Cristiano Ronaldo at Old Trafford was rightly sent off, having launched himself with 2 feet off the floor. I heard a commentator this week on a challenge that was a red card that the referee issued a yellow, saying, well, actually, it's not red because it was only 1 foot. There's no distinguishing point in the law. The question is he off the ground? Yes, he is. It doesn't matter whether it's 1 or 2 feet that goes forward. So again, I think these are sometimes the comments made in the media that make me smile.
And that's what annoys me, Keith, is that when they say that without having a proper grasp of the laws of the game, that goes out as gospel, and then people believe it. Oh, yeah, it's true because so-and-so said it, and it goes out as gospel. When in fact, why do they have a commentator and a pundit, and then you have 3 guys in the studio and the presenter, all ex-players, and not one referee to explain the laws of the game, and they are there based on their knowledge or lack of, and they're actually giving out what appears to be gospel truth when in fact it's not. Why isn't there a referee on every single football match panel? I just don't know. I just don't know.
Well, we obviously have on one of the programs we have Mike Dean, and then of course on Monday the Sky have Ref Watch and Dermot Gallagher. and Dermot extols the
Yeah,
virtues
match
of
of the day that's been going for donkey's years,
yeah,
and there's nobody on that.
yeah, that's right,
Just amazing.
correct.
Thanks very much. We've had interruptions. We've run out of time. Many thanks for joining me. I know it's the middle of the holidays, and I appreciate it. For the Manchester United fans out there, I've got to give you very bad news. Newcastle are leading 2-0, and there's only 29 minutes gone at Old Trafford, so not good news. All right, we'll go off air, Keith. I just need to speak to you off air.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you. To all of you out there, thank you for watching. We'll be back again next Monday, same time, same place. Until then, have a very, very happy, peaceful
Happy New Year.
New Year. Please be careful if you're driving. Thank you. Bye-bye.